The bigger firms are using AI to how to replace advisors. And we're using it and we're demoing it, you and I. We've had numerous conversations on this and how do we use it to empower our advisors.
AI and AI technology is going to enable the smaller advisor to compete with the bigger companies.
A lot of these bigger firms, the tech decisions are made by people that aren't advisors or never were. So they're building out and they're approving or denying or making decisions on client experience when they've never sat on the other side of the table.
All right, welcome back to the Broken Dealer podcast. I'm Daren Blonski, your co-host with Carmine, Corino. And today we're going to be talking all about the tech stack for the independent financial advisor. Probably one of the most challenging aspects of running an independent financial advisory firm is understanding how all the little technology pieces go together. There's must-haves, there's nice-to-haves, and there's good-to-haves. And we're going to talk about some of the tricks we've learned over time and how to splice that all together to make it work efficiently. I will say on the outset, if you don't like tinkering around with technology or you don't have someone who likes to tinker with tech, you're making a huge mistake not partnering with someone who's already figured that out, because it is a huge lift running your own independent financial advisory firm and making all the technology work together. Would you say that's true, Carm?
Yeah, I mean, we have a tech guy, Tom, the tech guy. So his job is to build out automations and integrations and train all of our advisors and their teams on our tech stack.
Does Tom work for you or is he an independent contractor?
He works for us. And building and maintaining a tech stack, we have a tech map. I think it's 26 different technologies that all speak to each other. Well, most of them speak to each other. Some don't.
Is that what you have is 26 total?
I believe so.
I don't think I've ever counted mine.
We have a beautiful illustrated tech map that Tom built out with the logo of each tech and how it's integrated in our ecosystem. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'd love to look at it.
I would say, look, tech is important for two reasons. One, it when used properly, it can boost an advisor's efficiency overnight, right? So you look for technologies that can help you and your team run more efficiently. And two, tech will make the client experience much better. Those are the two ways to look at technology: is the advisor and the operational impact. And then client experience or client impact is how we look at tech. And the efficiency part, I can't speak enough about it. The problem is most advisors are in these constrained environments that don't allow for certain technologies and don't allow you to integrate certain things. Like, for example, there's a large firm that doesn't allow their advisors to use Calendly or any type of online calendaring technology for a client to click on a link and pick a time that works for them. I mean, that's probably the most simplest form of, like, I call that level one tech that big firms don't allow their people to use. And it's talk about saving. This is about advisor efficiency and client experience. Client can go in and click the time they wanted that works for them, and they don't have to go back and forth with, well, now Wednesday at 2 doesn't work. So can you do Thursday at 3 or Friday at 2? And then you wait for the client to get back to you 3 days later. Then that time's now taken. And it takes a while for the client. We need to make it easy as possible for the client to do business with us. And online calendaring systems, really, like I said, that level one technology.
Well, I think going back to our previous episode where we talked about alignment, right? And so is the firm you're looking to partner with or the firm you're looking to build, are you going to be tech forward or tech laggards, right? And some advisors are perfectly fine with good old fashioned call mom and pop and schedule it. Other firms, that's not going to work for. And I think you have to make sure you align from a technological philosophy with the firm you might be partnering with or the firm, or be clear about the one you're building. What is your outlook for technology? I know, like at our firm, we do a lot of, we try to be pretty cutting edge on the tech side of things. We're doing lots with AI and exploring how to use it and understand it. And obviously we have the regulatory frameworks we have to be careful with. But there's really, I think firms are going to more be challenged by this because I think of how fast AI is advancing. and this is not an episode about AI, but I think it's at the cross section how AI is going to be disrupting our business in a really big way. And I think if advisors are not mindful of that, they're going to be in trouble. And what we see with a lot of these technological tools that are out there is that, when I went independent in 2016, it was really difficult figuring out all the technology tools. They weren't great, and you had to really kind of force them to communicate with each other. There's since been tools like Zapier that we use that actually allows the APIs to talk. So we can create workflows between different systems. Because what happens when you're an independent advisor is you have to, you might buy, Black Diamond or Orion is your core kind of performance and reporting tool, right? You have to have a core reporting and performance tool. And then if you have that tool has to talk with your portfolio management tool, and that tool has to talk with your custodial tool. And then that tool has to talk with your emails. And then you've got your CRM where you have to document all your communication with your clients. And there's been an attempt to have some tools that do it all, but what you find with those do it all tools is they again lock you into an ecosystem that then you make sacrifices on, right? Well, yeah, you can be in our all-in-one ecosystem, but guess what? You can't use Calendly now, and you have to use this or that. So it's really helpful if you're going to piece things together to have someone like Tom for Carmine, and we have a guy named Dan that does a lot of that for us. And using Zapier to communicate between these interfaces. APIs have gotten better, but one of the things you have to do when you're talking to all these tech providers is ask the hard questions of like, how do you connect with blah, 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 my other tech stack? Because a salesperson's always going to oversell it. The other thing I've learned in working with technology is you should buy technology assuming that it's going to do half of what the person sold you it was going to do.
That's a good point.
Without fail. Like, actually, I'm implementing a tool on our tax side of the business right now that's AI that ingests documents for clients. So when, a client has like 50 documents, it ingests that document, takes the data off of it, and then puts it on the client tax return. It's pretty cool. It's been the first client onboarding experience I've had with technology in a financial services firm where actually it's lived up so far to what's promised. So far, the reports back from the team are like, wow, it's really working and it's doing a really good job of it. But that gives you an example where it's going. Like, we can literally now, if you're a client, Carm, you can bring all your tax docs. We can take those tax docs. We can ingest it into our system using AI. It will pull every important piece of data off of those forms, and then we'll put it into the tax document. Where this is headed in our business and financial planning too is client can bring us all their forms and we'll ingest it into the financial plan. Today, you still have to key all that in with somebody, but it's not going to be very long before that's gone. And I think that's the pace at which we're seeing things change, which impacts the HR situation. It impacts a lot in our business. We should do another episode here in the near future on how AI is going to impact the independent advisor, because that would be a good one.
For sure. The bigger firms are using AI to how to replace advisors. And we're using it and we're demoing it, you and I. We've had numerous conversations on this and how do we use it to empower our advisors? So, because the largest expense that every big broker dealer firm has out there is advisor comp. So every time they're looking at profitability in those 90-day sprints is what they consider long-term planning. How do we lower comp? How do we replace these people? And if you don't think they're doing it, I know for a fact they are. In the bigger firms, they're handcuffed to their compliance regulations have to be molded to the lowest common denominator, which means they're not going to allow an advisor that just started with them to use, high-end tax planning software, right? So it's easier for them to say no one's using it than saying, okay, well, these people can use it and these people can't. It's easier for their compliance people to regulate. And I'm going to tell you a story. We were talking to a team that does not use technology. If we're using technology, 50% using it at 1%, right? Very basic. They built a heck of a practice. I just wish we could see what they could have built by utilizing technology. But I said, hey, think of this as your next week of work when you come here your first week here is our team sends your client a link to schedule a review with you. They click on the link, they schedule the time. And using Zapier, it automatically starts the review meeting process for our service team, starts that workflow, assigns that task to the first service team member. And it's done all back office, all fully automated. And we have, I think, 40 or 50 Zaps built out today. And we have something in our firm is that, try and think of one thing a week that we can, one process a week that we can improve. And today in our level 10 meeting, our Monday meeting, we have 3 great ideas that are on the board and can fully be automated. The problem is if you're at a firm that doesn't allow you that autonomy to be able to build out these automations across the tech stack, you're not going to run as efficient as you ever would, because you're just limited to what they believe. And Daren, you and I spoke about this. A lot of these bigger firms, the tech decisions are made by people that aren't advisors or never were. So they're building out and they're approving or denying or making decisions on client experience when they've never sat on the other side of the table.
The tech decisions are being made by IT professionals and attorneys, right? So you get the compliance legal infrastructure on top of the IT people that have no idea what it even means to sit with the client. And you're like, this is bogus. One interesting thing, Carm, that I've thought a lot about and we've talked about is this whole AI thing, right? And how AI is going to impact all of our businesses substantially. But one of the biggest first, I think, things that's going to impact our businesses is AI, and AI technology is going to enable the smaller advisor to compete with the bigger companies, which is a really cool thing when you think about it. So Joe Blow, the advisor in little town America, because of AI and the way he or she can deploy those agents on their behalf to do the financial planning, to do, the scheduling, to do all this stuff, now all of a sudden at their fingertips has a staff of 5 people for a fraction of the cost.
That's right.
So it's really going to democratize advice, where I think what's happened is you've had these big mega firms that have, survived and built this industry. They're imploding. I don't know if you saw some of the earnings if you look in some of the earning reports of these big broken dealers, but they're losing advisors left and right. They're having a hard time retaining now. And I think it's just going to get worse, because what AI is going to do is going to allow Carm, for example, if you just want to set up shop, you can go out there and say, okay, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to hire an agent to do all my financial planning. And it's going to be here within a year or two. Parts of it are already here. The issue right now is always an issue of access when it comes to AI, right? AI and the ability, the large language models to work and do things on behalf of you and your clients is there. What's not there is the access to that. So when you think about technology, I think what you'll see is, I think you're going to see a lot of pressure from the bigger broker dealers to regulate the industry in a way that slows down AI, because they won't be able to adopt it that fast. So the cutting edge, I think, is really going to be on what I call the semi-boutique advisor, right? It's the firm that's not so big that it has to make all their IT decisions through compliance and through IT. I mean, there's always a compliant piece of this, but they don't have to make the least common denominator decision. Right? Because it's that least common denominator decision that really dumbs down the tech stack. Like, how do we have to build this thing so the idiot can use it? And if we don't have to build it so the idiot can use it, because we actually all have good people that are smart, then it works out okay. But it's not going to be the big independent shop, because the big independent shop's not going to be able to turn the battleship. And it's not going to be the super micro advisor either, because there's no budget there.
That's right.
And usually the micro advisor is not willing to invest back in their business because they're hand to mouth. It's going to be the semi-boutique advisor. And that's self-serving, obviously, when I say that, but I think that's where the resources are going to be too, and where you're going to see the cutting edge of adoption with AI and technological tools. So let me go back to basics. So in a tech stack, if you're an independent financial advisor, the first thing you're going to need to do is decide what is going to be your your key reporting software. A lot of that can happen in your custodian, but not all custodians. It depends on the custodian. The second thing you're going to need is where you're going to do your billing, because that's really, really critical. Obviously, that's your lifeblood of your business. And then where you're going to do the performance. A lot of times, billing and performance are together in one piece of tech. Once you've got that, then you have to have your CRM system. So which CRM system are you going to use? Is it Wealthbox? Is it Redtail? Is it one of the others out there? And then how are you going to make that sync and talk with one another? And then how are you going to make it sync and talk with the custodian? So anytime you look at technology, you've got to figure out, how does this API communicate with the custodian that I've chosen, right? So then you've picked out those pieces. And then you've got to pick out like a portfolio management system. Like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to run your models? How are you going to analyze your models? Morningstar, Quanti's a really cool one out there. Once you've got those pieces in, now you've got your critical like inner office communications, right? Are you going to go Google? You're going to go Microsoft. Those are pretty much the two big email ones. Then if you're in Microsoft, are you going to use Zoom? Are you going to use Teams? Are you going to use what other tools within the Microsoft suite are you going to use, or the Google suite you're going to use? But whenever you decide any of those as an independent advisor, you also have to do a cybersecurity due diligence process, right? So you have to validate that each one of these pieces of tech has all the cybersecurity validations that are important. A lot of firms out there that will do that for you, but it costs every time you implement a tool into your tech stack.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a lot of advisors short circuit that process, where they implement technology and other things and haven't really done any due diligence. They don't even know what they're doing. So if there's a data breach, their client data is going to get breached. Most independent advisors don't have multiple tech companies on staff. So like, we have a tech company we have a person that does our tech integration in-house. Plus we have a tech company, a 1-800 number you could call if your computer breaks, or we're constantly threat checking the computers to make sure that, Joe Blow's not playing Minecraft on his work computer, all those type of things. Because you can't do that. You can't allow your kids to play on your work computer, because of that could create a data breach. And then on top of that, you need to have like a due diligence security firm, making sure that all this stuff is secure. So there's a lot to think about with tech, and it's a big part of the independent advisor's job.
There's something to be said, and people have said this over and over about how important a CRM is. And I heard this for many years, 17 years at that insurance company. Their CRM was, when I say dummy down to the lowest common denominator, they found that lowest common denominator and went 3 levels below that person to someone a 3-year-old. Because it was the most simplest form of Salesforce at the time. So no one used it. In fact, most advisors were using other third-party CRMs just to be able to get workflows and things like that. No, I see that a lot with advisors that we're talking to that, our firm uses this, but we use this. And that's in our advisor intake form that they fill out.
Which, by the way, is a massive, massive no-go.
100%.
I mean, you could get in big trouble for doing that. So please be clear. If you've got a shadow system outside of your organization that you're running, it is a huge issue from compliance standpoint. And you need to be not doing that.
Right. So we never did it because I just didn't want that risk. And I would tell anyone, don't house any data in there. Use it project management. That's fine, but no client data, right? You don't want client data there. But I learned how important a CRM is once we actually had a CRM that was built to our specifications when we went independent. And I don't even know how an advisor is running as any efficiency level without a properly managed CRM. And most of the advisors that, again, we're talking to are not running CRM 100%. So when they come to a firm like mine or yours that say, look, this CRM is built, we're going to build it out, your environment, to the way you want it. Like, not to the way we think you should have it, because our intent is different than yours. How do you want your CRM to look like? We're going to share 50, 60 workflows with you. Great. If you need any help, Tom, the tech guy, is going to help you build out workflows to your organization. We never had that kind of support at the bigger firms because I don't think how does it serve them? right? I just think that's most advisors don't know the impact of actually having a fully run, fully integrated CRM, that we have all these zaps built out, that things are happening automatically, that all email archives are all going in at the client level. Imagine going into CRM and you could see every client sent and every email sent and received from that client. Don't have to go looking through Outlook. It's all in your CRM if you need it. We never had anywhere close to that type of technology platform where I came from. And that is why the common thread is once an advisor liberates themselves out of those constrained environments and goes independent, they see the largest jumps in growth they've ever seen. It's because you're now in an environment that is aligned with your growth.
I think they see that if they've either figured out how to set up all their systems, or they're working with a group that already has the system set up. I can't tell you how often I see advisors completely underestimate the lift of technology. I mean, let's just take a simple process, for example. You're an advisor, you work as a financial advisor, you want to go independent, you go independent. You want to start your own firm. And think about, just in this episode, we've talked about how many different processes and systems and decisions that had to be made. Let's just throw another one in there. How are you going to text message your clients?
Ooh, good one.
Because don't think for a minute that the SEC is going to buy, I don't text my clients. They know full well you do. And if you go and deny it to them, then you're going to get yourself in trouble real quick. So you better have a solution for text messaging, right? So like our system, for example, we use Ring Central as our main phone line. All our text messaging happens through Ring Central, which then gets archived into Wealthbox via Zapier, which creates the archive because you have to have that archive. Well, if you're just an independent advisor and you're just setting that system up, that's a half a day's worth of work. That's a day's worth of work just to make that system sync, work, function, operate. And then you've got maintenance on top of that. And so I think what a lot of advisors do is they go independent. They don't set up these systems. They run woefully non-compliant and just hope they never get caught, which is not a good operating procedure, right? That's bad news.
We've seen so many firms fined for no failure to adhere to their text messaging protocols. It's easy to slip up, and it's easy to get comfortable because if you do it a couple times and no one says anything, it's kind of like, oh, okay. It's not what you say; it's what you tolerate. Okay, I'm good. No one said anything, and it's a slippery slope. And going independent doesn't mean it's Wild West that you can do whatever you want. We've had that discussion with some people like, well, I want to do this. I thought being independent. No. That's based on the firm's compliance guardrails. We just have much wider highways. So if one of those big broker dealers is a 2-lane highway, a firm like Sonoma or Cornerstone is a 6-lane highway. You definitely have more autonomy because we're not dumbing down our tech stack and our compliance guardrails based on our lowest common denominator. We're doing it to empower, to elevate your practice, and to go through our tech. So we had one of the advisors say, if I want a tech approve, what's the process? Very easy. You schedule a call with me and the COO, and you present the tech to us. And first question is, how does this positively impact the client? Or how does this positively impact your practice? Or even better yet, both. And then we go through the due diligence process with the tech vendor, just like you said, and it goes on our map. 27 techs I counted while we were on this podcast.
27.
In fact, the switch to our current CRM today from our old one was a request from one of our advisors. The last thing you want to do is change CRMs. We were onboarding 4 new advisors at that time. And I got this call and I said, this isn't the time. He goes, just talk to them, please. I beg you. And I did. And I'm so thankful of him because we've elevated our systems tenfold because of that change. And it's so easy to say it's working, it's okay. It's my job to question what's working. It's my team's job to question what's not working. But that advisor making that intro to me to this CRM that I looked at in the past, but they changed since then, was, I would continue to thank him today. It was a great thing to bug me for 2 weeks to have this call with them. So I thank you again.
The other thing too, you got to think about whenever it comes to technology, and that is when you create these and sign these contracts, you have to generally sign contracts with these bigger tech providers. And they're like a 5-year contract if you're going to get any reasonable pricing. And what happens, I've seen, is that because technological advance is just going so fast right now, that these bigger firms are getting lapped, and then they go try to acquire to change quicker because they can't create the technology as fast. But you're stuck in, as an advisor, you're stuck in that contract, right? So you might go to a firm and they have pretty good tech, but you're like, hey, I really want this piece of tech. And the firm owner is going to be like, yeah, great, but I've got a 5-year contract. So when that's up, then we can relook at something new. But that's going to be even more of an issue, I think, moving forward as technology really continues to advance and advance fast. So tons, I mean, we could probably do a whole nother episode on technology because there's so much to talk about, the nuance of it.
Yeah.
But we're going to leave it there. Hopefully that's helpful to those who are considering going independent, gives you some things to think about when it comes to technology and how you need to structure it, set it up, or partner with someone that's already done it, whatever works for you. Thanks again for joining us on the Broken Dealer podcast, and we'll be back next time. Take care.